Hey everyone, it's DovahNiik here, and I've been asked what I think of the new series season 3 of Stranger Things. So I thought it would be easiest if I did a video, given how much typing there'll be to do. So this is a massive spoiler alert. All right, I'm going to be talking about every little bit that has happened, and there's quite a bit of very important stuff that's happened this season. I'm not sure if there's going to be a season 4, but I'm assuming so, with how well it's doing. So we'll do a little sort of recap. The Mind Flayer, they think the Mind Flayer wasn't locked in the gate from season 2, but in fact, I think from what I gathered was that the Russians had sort of opened it a little bit and let him out and disturbed him, and he took on Billy Hargrove as a host, and that's how the whole thing sort of starts. And then it spreads from there. It's quite unusual this season. I think my partner described it best when he said that it's very busy. There's so much going on. You start off with Billy, who's got a sort of new job at the swimming pool, and then you watch him sort of try to have a little rendezvous with, is it Will's mom? Not Will's mom, Mike and Nancy's mom. But then instead he gets caught by, which is the Mind Flayer, and it takes him over. So you've got that little bit, and then it sort of moves back and forth from him to Elle and Mike and their relationship, which also is Hopper as well, and what he thinks of their relationship. So it moves between that to then the little story between Nancy and Jonathan, and they're sort of working for an editor's, and she wants to be a journalist, but she's just a receptionist. And then the new bit, this is the bit that I found the most confusing, but it's a huge part of the story, is the Russians and how they figure out that there are Russians underneath the new Starcourt Mall. It turns out they're the cause of why the Mind Flayer is here. I think they're using some kind of weird machine to open it again. And because it's flicking, and each episode, there's only 8 episodes, and because it's flicking back and forth between all these things, not to mention there's an extra bit with Dustin and Dustin's relationship with Susie, and they're getting stuck in this sort of base with Steve and the new girl, Robin, because you've got pretty much 5 or 6 different sort of aspects to the story and only 8 episodes. It sort of moves very fast between each one. Bam, 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 bam. So every episode is very busy, and you don't really get a huge length of time to see each character. And I didn't think that, considering what a main character that Billy was this season, he was pretty much the face of the main bad guy. He's like, you didn't see him that much, which is odd. Saw him a little bit, but not particularly sort of overwhelming. And considering what amazing acting he did this season, would have liked to see him a little bit more as the sort of host. Do you know what I mean? But still, other than that, I did enjoy it. It was really good. How can you not enjoy Stranger Things? It is fantastic. It just moved a little bit fast for me. Yeah. The ending as well was quite. It all moved very fast, and I think because you move so fast in this, it's not as emotional as it would have been if the story had been played out over a longer period of time. It sort of had the same problem for me that Game of Thrones, the last season, did. Everything was sort of compacted. But still, other than that, yeah, it was great. It is definitely worth a watch. The thing you have to remember about Stranger Things is it's sort of like you're meant to binge watch it. There's so much to go in. The only way to sort of remember everything is if you binge watch it from start to finish. And we didn't do that. We only had a space of a few days to watch them. So picking back up from the episode before can be quite tasking, and trying to remember everything that's gone in. We had to do a little recap of each one. The enemy is, again, the Mind Flayer. There are no Demogorgons on it this time, which is, I think, what let it down for me, because the Demogorgons are fascinating enemies. The sort of creature they had on this one, which the Mind Flayer's physical sort of body was, I can't describe it, it's something like a fleshy spider. I think it was actually called the flesh spider at some point in it by someone, but yeah, it's that. And and obviously Billy, and then the people that he helps to feed to it become sort of like zombies, like Will was for it. They were fine, they did fine, but it was the thing, it wasn't as interesting to me as all the Demogorgons. I don't know why, I just think there's something fascinating about them, isn't there? And throughout the whole thing, it's Billy feeding people to it, and they become infected as well with this thing. And I think from the looks of it, if I got it right, and as I said, because I've watched it over a period, a few days instead of a binge, I forget a little bit about each one. He fed them to it, and it grew, and it sort of come from this little thing that got Billy to then a considerably bigger thing. It was huge, enormous. Yeah, and considering how big it was, it didn't exactly do a great deal of damage to the town. I was sort of expecting, when I saw the trailer, for this thing to actually take over. Do you know what I mean? It was enormous, bigger than the mall. But it didn't, it was after Elle mainly, so it didn't do a great deal of damage. I thought that was kind of let down. I think it felt a little bit like the Demogorgons did more to me. Probably wrong about that, but I liked them. As far as characters go, they're all great. You've got to love every single one. Hopper was my personal favourite this season, and I think everybody's gonna agree with that. He was fantastic. He's a little bit more, he had more personality than usual on this one, especially with the Joyce. And obviously there's a little thing going on between them, but they're sort of interpreting it with this bickering, this really, really amusing bickering. I loved it the whole way through. Back and forth and back and forth. It's just, the ending then breaks you when he dies. It is just horrible. And it's the face he pulls at her at the last scene, and she's just like, no, I'm not doing this. But obviously they've got to. And I know you didn't find a body. People are saying there's no body. And right at the end, if you stayed to watch throughout the credits, you'll see that it goes back to what looks like a Russian gulag. And in there, one of the men walks past a cell, and the other man says to him, not the American. So hopefully that's Hopper. And it probably is, isn't it? It's going to come back. You can't kill him. He's beautiful. Yeah, so there's Joyce being Joyce, who is perpetually anxious, but also manages to get a lot of stuff done. And I think people with anxiety like us probably need that. Jonathan and Nancy, they're just sort of happy in their own relationship. They have some slight bickering, but their relationship sort of played down a little bit on this season. It's focused more around Nancy trying to get ahead in what was a man's world back then. And she does a fantastic job. So you don't really notice, again, the relationship, but she does. And she can shoot. That girl can shoot. Billy, you find a little bit more about Billy, obviously because he is the main sort of bad guy in this one. And I'm always a fan of the bad guys. In the 80s sort of things, they're always really good looking. So it's right up my street that he got to play a bigger role in this one. He does an amazing job. He really is an amazing actor at the faces he pulls and how vicious he can look. But you also find out when Elle goes into his mind a little bit more of why Billy ended up being the way he did. And I think the thing you take from this one and a little bit of season 2 is that the real sort of bully in the whole thing is his dad. It's quite sad. So I really enjoyed that he got to redeem himself a little bit at the end, the very end. He fought it, and then he sort of held it back long enough for them to win. I wished he'd had the chance to say a little bit more to Max at the end, because, do you know what I mean? He was quite hard on her, and it's clear that he loves her. So it would have been nice for him to say a little bit more than I'm sorry, but you get that it is, I'm sorry for everything that I've done. Will, poor Will. There's not a lot to say about Will. Will is like the perpetually tortured character in this. He doesn't really get the chance to be a fun-loving kid. I mean, the rest have had a hard time too, but Will's had it even harder. And I think in this, it shows a little bit of what the others are moving on and getting relationships, and Will is sort of stuck behind just wanting to play D&D all the time. And I think it is because he doesn't want to grow up yet. He's not really had the best childhood, has he? So he didn't want to, not interested in girls. He just wants to go back to his friends before this whole sort of thing started. Who can blame him? So I do feel sorry for him, really do. he needs to sort of lower the shorts a little. They're starting to edge up. So yeah, other than that. And Elle is wonderful. Elle, she's becoming a teenager, which is horrific for Hopper. He's really not coping very well with the fact she's becoming a teenager, and it sort of culminates in this very powerful letter that he wrote for her that she doesn't get to read until he dies. But it's wonderful. When you get to that letter, that'll really kick in that he's dead, or at least he's dead for them. But she's very powerful in this one, Elle. I didn't notice she was that powerful during the last one, but she's really sort of coming into her own strength, and she really does kick ass so much in this season that she physically tires herself out for a while. Lucas and Max are great. They're fantastic. Max's relationship with Elle sort of blossoms. Lucas is teaching Mike the ways of teenage relationships, and they're always amusing. There is Robin is a new character. Robin and Steve's relationship. Now that for a lot of that, you will feel like they're going to be in a big sort of relationship, but it turns out she's a lesbian. But the amazing thing about that is it doesn't affect their relationship at all, as you see, sort of moving on. And those two with Dustin and Erica who is the best character in the entire thing, isn't she? Erica, had the Mind Flayer possessed Erica, I think it would have been catastrophic. She's too tough. So the individual character stories were amazing, and I don't think they can get much better than the way they were portrayed, and have always been portrayed since the very start. So I'm pretty chuffed with that. I just think maybe an extra episode or two might have done with Stranger Things. I don't think it was. If I had to sort of mark it out of sort of 5 stars, I would give the first Stranger Things would probably obviously be 5 stars. It was fascinating. Stranger Things 2, again, same again, 5. And then this one I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna say 3.5 to 4, just because of how tightly packed all these different stories were. But as for character creation, everything else, that was amazing. Amazing. They're the characters that we love, and they came back with a few new ones to love. Oh, a little shout out for Alexei, who managed to portray being quite sweet, even though he doesn't speak a word of English. Rest in peace. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Let me know what you think of the new Stranger Things, and whether you had any sort of similarities, or you think it's the absolute best thing ever. Just let me know. And I'll be back soon. I did say I was going to do a little Game of Thrones one as well, because I never got around to doing that. So I'll pop another one of those on shortly. But yeah, definitely watch Stranger Things. Try to watch it as sort of close together as you can to get the full story, because it's sort of like a giant, 8 hours? 8 hours film. And then let me know in the comments what you thought of Stranger Things. So thank you guys for watching me ramble again, and I'll see you soon. Bye! Oh, I'm back. I forgot to mention, there's been a lot of controversy about the little never-ending story scene in this. Saying that because of that, Hopper died. And shut up! It was great! How can you be too 80s? 80s was amazing! Leave it alone, they did a great job. I think it's just a little bit of comic relief in the middle. I don't think it was actually the cause of Hopper's death, which was, the giant Russian Terminator guy, really, chasing him all the way through, and the great whack-off weird machine. So leave it alone. It was great. Who doesn't love, and who hasn't been singing the song ever since that came on? Because if you say it, you're lying. I've been singing it constantly since I've seen it. So shut up. It was great. Bye!